Hey, everybody, welcome to the Danette May Show, where we are going to be discussing how to create more financial abundance, to become the frequency of money and start having that be a part of just your blueprint, where money flows into your life, where the things that you desire will be in front of you. We're going to talk all these things as if we are two girlfriends sitting down having a chat. And so let's get started. I really wanted this episode to be more natural. I wanted us to just sit together like we're having a coffee, having a tea, having a cacao, and I'm just sharing my personal insights. This is less about me coaching you. I tend to marry the both. I'm always coaching, I'm always sharing my truth, but I really want this to be about two girlfriends sitting down because I've been asked actually this question a lot on money and frequency of money and what's my take on was everyone able to make a lot of money? And how did you do it, Jeanette? So for those of you who are new to me, welcome to the show, but I'll just give a slight backstory because I think it's appropriate so that you can understand that I actually have the credibility to talk about these things and that I'm not just shooting fluff up into the air. Because I think there's this interesting balance, right? Like people, it's fake. It's really fake out there. I'm just going to keep it really real. Those that really are shouting from the rooftops that they have a lot of money or they're sharing with you that they can teach you how to make a lot of money and they ask for your money to teach you how to make more money typically don't have a lot of money. It's really interesting. It's the ones who are touting the amazing relationship that typically don't have the amazing relationships. And those with money really don't have to share to you, or they don't even have to flaunt their stuff to you when they actually really have money. I don't know if you've noticed that. The really wealthy people, they're not flaunting their bags and their clothes and their wears and tears and their private jets and all their trips, just living life. And you really wouldn't even know that they have a lot of money. They're more undercover. That's truly the people that have a lot of money. So I'm going to speak to that. And I'm also going to speak to my own experience. Just giving you a little backstory. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I actually grew up with a family where my dad, if the car broke down, he would be underneath it, fixing it to save a buck. My mom would take powdered milk and mix it with water to save money on regular cow's milk. We would have powdered milk growing up. We never went out to eat. I don't ever remember going out to a restaurant. If we did, it was the A&W in our small town, and we were allowed to get a hamburger. And that might have happened maybe 1 to 3 times in my whole upbringing. When we traveled to go visit our grandparents, which was easily a 7 to 8 hour drive, it would be the highlight of my trip if we stopped at the day old bakery where you got a 25-cent pastry filled with fruit. That was super exciting if we got a pastry because we didn't get anything. Oh, and also the big joke in our family is my mom would fill up a big mason jar full of water, screwed the lid on it, and put it in the car, and we had to drink from that water. And I remember getting yelled at by my brothers because they would tell me that I backwashed into the water and then they would have to drink the water instead of each having our own individual water bottles. That's how we traveled. I'm sure some of you have these same stories where just money was a topic of stress. Money was not something that we had a lot of. I remember scraping, those little chapsticks where you screw the bottom and the chapstick rises up. I remember because I would be so excited if I had a chapstick. Maybe I got it for my birthday or maybe I got it for Christmas and it would last me the longest time. When it got to the very bottom and you could see the little middle screw of the chapstick, I would scrape along the sides of it with a toothpick to get the very last drop of the chapstick. This was my upbringing. My friends were the sheep out in the back pasture and the horses and the dogs and the cat. And we didn't go on trips. If we went on a trip, it was camping because that's free. And we didn't camp at campsites because that cost money. So it was off-road camping. But I had a really good life. I remember our splurge as a family was buying a rubber raft to float down the river. Our splurge was the day old bakery on the way back to visit the grandparents, maybe once a year. And our splurge was horses and sheep and animals in our backyard. So I had a really good upbringing. I just remember that money wasn't something. My mom never went and got her nails done. My mom never had a massage. I think she made her own pants. And my mom sewed a lot of my clothes that I wore. I remember too, oh my goodness, I'm going to share this with you. I remember too, because it was a big deal to wear designer clothes as a teen. And of course, I would never even think to ask my parents for any designer clothes. So I would go to the Goodwill store, find a pair of Guess jeans. Did any of you wear Guess jeans, Guess jeans, or Esprit? Those were the big label brands when I was growing up. And I would find a pair of jeans. Of course, they were maybe too small or maybe even child size. And I would buy them because maybe they were 50 cents or $1 just to cut the label off and then ask my mom to sew it on my jeans. Oh my goodness. I am telling you the behind the scenes of the Danette May world of her upbringing. I would do this because I wanted desperately to look like I had money on certain things, especially when I started becoming a teen. That just wasn't my reality. But I remember they gave me a car. I was a female. I went to sports and had a job after sports. So I needed a car to get to school and to do my activities after school and get home. So I did have a car. It wasn't a fancy car. It was an older beat up car, but it was a car. And I remember feeling so cool that I had a car. And they also gave me a car to drive to college. So I feel super fortunate. And I'm so grateful for this upbringing because it led me to really respect the energy and currency of money. And when I started to experience life a little bit fuller, when money started to come in, it made me really appreciate it. It was really exciting when I got my first class ticket, which really wasn't that long ago, guys. So, of course, when you grow up with not a lot of money, that's your money mindset. A lot of times, a lot of us that grew up this way will tend to marry someone that fits within the realm of the same mindset of money. And I ended up marrying someone who was even less wealthy than my family. His family had less money. Of course, this was our reality. And I didn't really understand the power of the mind back then. I didn't understand that money could be shifted. The frequency of money can be shifted in your mind. I just thought you had to work harder or hit it big or get lucky or know someone to actually get money. And I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would have the life that I have today. That is for sure. And then I started to hear about books like The Secret. And also, guys, before I go on, I should say that I hit even the lowest of this amount of money when I went through my divorce. So I was always struggling, working really hard, just enough to put food on the table. But that was about it. When I got a divorce, my ex ended up draining all the financial accounts, took all of my money, even the children's savings that I put $50 in once they were born. And I felt a new low of money that I had never felt before. To walk into a grocery store with your two kids that are hungry and your youngest is 2 to 3, they're hungry, you're buying groceries, you go to swipe the credit card and it doesn't work. And you have a bunch of people behind you in the line. I've never felt a more intense fear come up within me because we were in this separation. He was unhappy about this separation. It's almost like your instincts kick in and something not good went down. I had to leave the groceries in the cart and tell the woman that I'm so sorry, my card's not working. Take my kids who are like, why are we leaving our groceries? Embarrassed, grabbing them, putting them in the car, driving myself to the bank to ask them why my credit cards weren't working, because deep down I had a hunch something bad had happened, for them to proceed to tell me that all of my accounts have been completely zeroed out and shut down. Then hearing my youngest as I'm placing her in her car seat on our way home to our empty home of no food to say, Mom, I'm hungry. I hit a lower sense of energy around money than I think I'd ever had, because when you're a mom and you love your children, the last thing you want to feel is that they're hungry and you don't have food for them. And That's what I went home to. We got in the house and I said, let's play a game. Whoever can find the most money in the couches and cushions and around the home wins. And this is where we came up with $47.63. Some of my programs have been $47 in honor of that moment because I remember them with smiles laying the random cash on the counter and me going, okay, Danette, I am a mom of 2 kids with an ex that is not paying anything for these kids, who has drained all my accounts. My family thinks I have gone loony because I've walked away from their religion. They're not supporting me at this time. By the way, guys, little side note, there's been forgiveness. It's all good now, but that was my reality in that moment to go, what am I going to do with $47.63? How am I going to make this stretch? How am I going to feed my kids? Alone is not an option. My family's not an option. I am a single mom and I've got 2 kids. But what I have and had, and what you have and always have had, is the ability to work, the ability to be creative, the ability to be tenacious, and the ability to shift your frequency around money. Now, because we all have that, I'm happy to tell you that we all have the ability to shift our money story. I don't care what's going on in the world financially. I don't care what's going on in the world economically. I don't really care. And actually, if you are broke as a joke like I was, I say, congratulations. It's up from here. If you're listening to this and you are in a growth mindset, you are going to see change in your life. You will see change if you do the things I'm going to share with you. By the way, if you're a premium coaching member, I have a money program inside that program that a lot of people are doing to really understand the frequency, the energy, the mind shift around money. So here I was as a single mom, like literally in this trajectory of change of, okay, I'm trying to divorce this human. I am drained of my bank accounts. I've got 2 mouths to feed, 3 mouths to feed, including my own. I know how to work. I know how to hustle and I know how to change my mind. I know that I can work on changing my mindset. So what do I need to do? So I started diving into books. I started diving into lectures from people that were destitute, that were people that had lack of money, to how they use their mind to shift that state. So I dived into people with understanding the power of the mind. Now, if you haven't dived into the power of the mind, that is your first step. The second step is make sure you know how to work, that you're willing to work, that you're willing to get up early, that you're willing to try something different when things don't work out. You've got to be tenacious. You've got to be willing to bend and sway. And then you also have to work on your mindset. So it's not just mindset and it's not just hard work. It's a mix of both. And I'm going to speak truth to both of that. Okay. I dived into books. I started reading books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I'm giving you guys these names of books. There was, I'm blinking, The Science of Wealth by Wallace Wattles. The Science of Wealth. I think it's The Science of Money or Science of Wealth by Wallace Wattles was another really big one for me. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I did all the things that they had suggested in those books, like down to the T. And I also listened to affirmations and stories around people that really just dove into the money mindset. Because if you are in a mindset of lack and you're in a mindset of this is hard and this isn't going to happen for someone like me, guess what? You're going to get more of it. If you choose to be in a mindset that, heck, if this happened to someone else, and they didn't have any money and then they made money, it can happen to me, then you're in a good place because you know that anything can happen for anyone. And if it's happened for someone else and you're witnessing it, it can happen for you. And I'm happy to tell you the reason I feel qualified to share all of this is not because I'm asking you to pay me money to teach you how to make money. I'm just sharing this out of the goodness of my heart because I want you to be abundant. If you have a caring heart, we need you abundant because people that have a caring heart are only going to do more good with that caring heart with more money. Our world operates on currency of money. I do think the currency of frequency is a little bit more valuable than the currency of money. We do need to eat, we do need to sleep, but I've rarely met anyone, because I've traveled the world, who doesn't usually have a roof over their head and food to eat at some level. Maybe they're not carrying a Louis bag and they're not wearing Guess jeans and they don't have these 5-bedroom massive homes, but their basic needs are being met. And oftentimes they're happier than the ones who have 5-bedroom homes carrying Louis Vuittons. I believe frequency is the highest currency and the more important currency than actually money. And me believing that, I think, has helped me acquire even more money. And I'm going to share even more about that. So this is a 3-part series. I'm going to drop this episode later today. I'm dropping the second part of the episode, and then another episode's dropping later this week. As I dive into this information, please go ahead right now, and up above you will see the follow button, whether you're listening on the Spotify or you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts. I would click that follow button right now, because then it will notify you when the second one drops and then the third one drops for the third part of this series, because I'm dropping it all for you, okay? And I'm speaking like we're having coffee. Like I would tell my best friend this, I would tell my kids this, I'm going to give you the truth. So for me, I really went from $47 to 3 8-figure businesses in the span of 5 years. Then the second one, maybe 6 years. And then the third one, maybe 10 years. So giving you an idea. And I have to say, they've always told me this, and I actually believe this. The first million is the hardest. That's the hardest. And then after you make your first million, it gets easier because you've learned the game. I'm going to say that again. This is a game. And you might be like, my wealth and my safety within money is not a game, Danette, but it is a game. Because if you start to look at other people around the globe and other countries, even what we call third world countries, they're getting by. And when you get stripped, I always say that my ex did me the biggest favor by stripping my accounts, because it taught me that I was still safe even though there was no money. I did feel the fear initially. I was worried initially, but now that I'm out of it and I look back, I was okay. I figured it out. I had a roof over my head. I renegotiated my rent because I was such a good renter. I just told him the situation. You can use different tactics to create wealth. You can use negotiation tactics, exchange tactics, like I'll give you this. If you give me this, I'll do this for you. I'll work for you in exchange for this. Or you can just create a business. So I did a little bit of everything to acquire money because I needed to. I had to renegotiate my rent to get it lower. I sold my furniture. I took on more clients, personal training clients. I got a girl who was a college student who needed free rent. I had her stay in the extra bedroom in our house so that in exchange for free rent, she would help me watch my kids, so that when I went to work training, I had a free babysitter. So these were things that I did. You got to get creative sometimes. You can't just expect money to come in one linear way. Where can you get creative? Like I've heard stories of a woman who had a dream of going to all the sacred sites around the world, but she had no money. So she's like, how am I going to be able to afford this dream to go to all these sacred sites around the world? And what she ended up doing is she was a photographer, and she contacted the airlines and said, hey, if you fly me around the world or you take me to these locations in exchange, I'll take pictures of these really sacred places I'm going, these really beautiful destinations that a lot of the people that are flying would want to go. And I'll give you these professional photos for free. And they saw her work as a photographer and they said, this sounds like a great deal. We don't have to hire you. We're just going to fly you for free, but we'll put you up in the hotels as well in those locations. And then you give us all the photos. So not only did she get free flights, but she got free hotel. And then she just gave them the photos. She got to go everywhere she wanted to go. So remember that you're negotiating. Your talents, your abilities also play into this exchange of wealth. And like I said, I did the same thing. I found a girl to live in my basement that I really trusted, that I really liked. She needed free rent. I needed a free babysitter. It was a win-win for both of us. So that's what I did. I got up really early in the morning and started training my clients, and I started building up my clientele base. And that's how I started. I was a personal trainer at the very beginning, and I would move to different locations, but my clients were so loyal. They came with me because I was a great trainer. So I would find locations that would either take less of a split so I could take more home, or I'd ask clients to pay me more. I started being the top paying trainer. So people paid me more than they paid other trainers because I delivered results. So be really good at your craft. Go above and beyond in your craft. Like you can't just be mediocre in anything that you do and expect to be paid like you're not mediocre. So choose to be amazing at what you do. Choose to go above and beyond in your service. Do this, do these things when you want to make money. And I've held on to that. I feel like in all of my programs and all of the things that I give, even today, I choose to go above and beyond the value amount that I'm asking them to pay. There are so many of my programs that are easily $500, $300, $1,000+ $10,000 worth of money, but I'll charge a fourth of the cost because I want to always over deliver on what I'm doing. It builds trust and it builds more customers. So that's another key thing here. So this is what I did. I started as a trainer, and then there would be little hunches or little nudges of ideas that would come to me, and I stepped into them. So I want to encourage you to step into these side hustles or step into these things. There's Upwork, there are Etsy. You could do something if you're a crafty person. I am not, but if I was, I'd probably do a side hustle on Etsy. If you need someone to help build out something for inexpensive, like I did when I first started my business, because it was a back end program, I hired people on Upwork. They're a little less money than hiring someone in the US, and they can do an amazing job. I found a lot of amazing people on Upwork, and a lot of our full-time employees became full-time employees when we found them on Upwork. But these are just great resources that I want to share with you. That's how I started. But I really want to talk a lot about what I did around my mind, because yeah, I'm sharing the beginning stages of the hustle part, but what did I do to change my mental zip code? You can't live in abundance if your mind and your DNA cells are in your childhood lack. You have to change your mental zip code. It's got to be the same frequency, the same zip code of someone abundant. So how do you do that when you are someone that grew up with a zip code of 92134, which was all lack and hard work, and money doesn't grow on trees, and rich people are not spiritual, and this isn't good, and money's evil, and all these stories on, when you truly want to be in zip code 10949 of abundance and traveling and following your heart and giving more donations to help other people and to be free when you sleep, and when you see someone who needs your help, a family member, a loved one, you can give them money. You want to be in that zone, you want to be in that zip code, you got to get over to that zip code, and you got to do it through frequency, through energy, through belief. And so on the next episode, I'm going to be talking about belief and how do you get to that mental zip code. So go ahead and click that follow button right now. I'm going to close out. This is part 1. Part 2 is dropping later today, all about how do you get to that mental zip code. And thanks so much for being a part of this show and a part of my journey and letting me just speak to you friend to friend. Love you guys so much, and I'll see you on part 2 later today.